Welcome to another episode of the Lead with Moxie podcast. I'm your host, Heather Legg, and today I'm really excited about a guest I have with me. She's currently in New York City, and she is gallivanting around the globe much of her time. I'm super excited because we have a lot in common. She likes travel, food, yoga. I'm talking about Jessica Festa. She's a native New Yorker and owner of the solo, female, and offbeat travel blog, Jessie on a Journey. I love that name. As well as the online responsible tourism and culture magazine, Epicure and Culture. Since 2014, she's been teaching online blogging courses to travelers wanting to make their dreams of location independence a reality. And when not traveling around the globe, you can find her leading photo tours in New York, taking yoga and hip hop classes, and sipping her way through the local cocktail scene. A girl after my own heart. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much.
We've been getting to know each other a little bit here. Gosh, I guess it's been a few months since we first connected, and learning a lot about what you're doing and how you've built this thing. And I know that people listening are excited to hear what challenges you've overcome as a woman in business, what advice you potentially have to give people who want to make money from their blog. So I'm going to let you tell us your story.
Awesome. So I went to college in upstate New York in Albany, and I had an idea that I was going to do nonprofit PR. I even got my master's, but during college, I had started traveling. I actually got the travel bug, as they call it, when I studied abroad in Sydney. And I just realized, okay, like I can't give this up. I have to keep doing this as much as I possibly can. So I waitressed through college. So I would waitress, and then I would go off summers and winter vacations. Any chance I got, I would go backpack South America. I would go backpack Europe. I would go backpack Southeast Asia. And the reason I actually got my master's because I wanted to buy more time to travel, like dead serious. That's why I did that. And
I've heard that before.
Yeah. My parents still don't know that unless they've like heard some of the interviews I've done, but They definitely expected me to get like a big time job in Manhattan after college. And it was sort of a curse and a blessing that I think it was 2011 when I graduated my master's. And that was the year of the recession. There wasn't that many jobs. So even though I was going on interviews that I really didn't want to be going on, I was just sort of like pleasing my family. I wasn't getting them. There just wasn't that many opportunities. So it bought me more time to waitress on the side and build up my blog, which at this time I didn't even know what a blog was, but I was looking up travel jobs and I saw normal people who were not anyone famous. They didn't have a show on the Travel Channel who were blogging and making money from it. So I was like, okay, I need to do this. I'm going to figure it out. I took a blogging course actually, and I just got really aggressive with pursuing this. And here we are today. I do it full time. Awesome.
And you were telling me, can I share that, that statistic you said, how often you make a sale?
Oh yeah. That's with my newest funnel.
We were talking a little bit about, her ads funnels, getting, attracting new people into her universe. And so you said you were making a sale about every hour.
Yeah. So I started a new funnel recently, and there's so many different strategies to making money. There's so many different revenue streams. I make money through affiliates, through display ads, through products and services that I create, through working with brands, through paid press trips. There's so many different ways, but I love creating products and services based on helping my community in a certain way. I have a mission statement. And so there's different strategies for promoting these products and services and getting people to actually see them and want them. So I've been able to kind of set up a funnel using Facebook ads, which is personally one of my favorite tools for increasing my revenue. And yeah, I've got one that's working really well for me right now. So I'm very happy.
That's awesome. So for those who don't necessarily live their whole business lives online and understand all this about advertising and funnels and how all that works with online business, can you explain funnels a little bit? Just a couple minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or a minute?
Yeah, I know it can definitely be confusing. So basically, it's looking at the big picture. Like, why are you on Instagram? Why are you running a Facebook ad? Why are you growing your email list? And sort of looking at these different tasks or things you're doing and trying to connect them all so that you reach an end goal. So if my end goal is making a sale, well, I can't just go up to anyone online and say, hey, buy my course. Right. I have to get them to know who I am first. I have to nurture them a bit, warm them up to the sale. And by the time they get to the point where I'm pitching them, hopefully they feel comfortable. They've gotten to know me. They feel ready to buy. So of course, not everyone's going to buy in your funnel, but an example might be, okay, somebody finds me on a Facebook ad because I've targeted them in some way. They have an interest, or they look like an audience that has worked well for me. So I've targeted them with an ad, and then I might get them on my email list through, say, a free opt-in gift that's relevant to problems that they have, pain points that they have. And then I might put them through, say, an email sequence where I'm teaching them strategies and I'm sort of busting myths and empowering them to take action. And then at the end of that email funnel, I am going to pitch them my course. And that's just one quick example of a funnel. There's many different ways to do it, but basically it's not just looking at, okay, I have to be on Instagram, I have to be posting every day. Well, how does that lead to the next step and the next step that's going to lead to that end goal being met?
I love it. Yeah. What's next? What's the overall result that you want? You're speaking my language for sure. And I think it's good to thank you for that example. That was really nicely done. I think for those who didn't realize that's what that was called, they obviously, but they've been attracted to an opt-in. Oh, I want this free checklist or this, whatever free worksheet. And then you get on the email list, and sometimes you love the content that they're sending you. And then you want to buy that next thing. And sometimes you're like, no, this isn't the right match. So it's that whole process, like you said, to getting to the end result and providing content that people benefit from, the people that you want to work with, that they're benefiting from authentically. And I think you're doing a really great job with that.
Oh, thank you. So, I always tell people who are, someone unsubscribed or, didn't buy. I'm like, that's totally fine. Of course, not everyone's going to purchase right away, but if they're on your email list and the right person, you have more time to warm them up to when you do a launch. And also if people unsubscribe, I mean, that just means they weren't your person. They weren't your target person. And that's totally fine. I mean, they weren't going to be the person that you could help. And you want to have a list of people that you can help, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Exactly. And I know that people listening to this episode are, all of us in business are responsible for sales in some capacity. Some sort of sales conversations are taking place. I mean, whether you are the owner and you're thinking that that's not something you have to worry about. Yeah, you have to be promoting.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't have to be salesy. That's the whole thing. So a lot of people, they avoid sales because they hate the idea of pitching to somebody. And, like you said, it's about building up that know, like, and trust factor first. So you've made some excellent points, and it works, but it's not just a slam dunk transactional relationship anymore.
Oh yeah.
I mean, unless maybe you have a $3 ebook or, something really needs and they don't even care who's providing it. But that's so rare, right? And there's so many great options out there online. So anyway, we can get off on a tangent with that. But sales, the dreaded sales word, but it's about helping people.
That's right. I feel like if you create something that will actually help people, it's almost like you're doing a disservice if you don't give it to them. Like, I just have had so many people over the years saying, how have you built up a travel blog? How are you monetizing this? How do you live full time in Manhattan on a travel, through your travel blog, you're just posting posts. And I'm like, no, there's so much behind the scenes stuff that it goes well beyond just publishing a story. So I created my courses just totally based on the questions that people have been asking me for years. And they're questions that I cannot physically answer in an email. They're just too in depth. They're too technical. There's too much of a big picture for me to put it into a paragraph. So that's how that came about, just through something that people told me that they wanted and needed.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit more about your course.
So I have a few. My main one, though, that I'm really proud of is my travel blog prosperity membership. So there's a lot of courses that are just a certain amount of weeks or even maybe a certain amount of time. Like, you have 2 months to finish the modules, and you can learn a ton in these types of courses. I also have those types of courses as well. But I do realize that a lot of people need more time. And there is such a benefit to having a community to help you, having constant 24/7 access, always being able to reach me or my team or other people in the membership through our Facebook group or through email or through the masterminds and the accountability groups to make sure you're on track, because this is a journey. It never ends, right? Like you might get past building your brand, or you might have your blog set up the way you want, but there's always going to be that next step that you need to learn. So that's why I love the membership, because the people in it, I have people who have been in it for over a year, and they're just continuing to grow and learn and moving to that next step and that next step. So that's what I felt lacked with the short end courses that I've seen out there. I mean, I haven't really seen any other travel blog specific memberships. There might be some blogging memberships. I honestly don't know. I've seen membership courses of all kinds, but I don't know if I've seen too many specifically for bloggers. And I mean, blogging is like any other business. You're a small business owner, and you're going to consistently have challenges, and you're going to consistently be growing and want to be moving to the next step. So that's why I really love this project that I've created.
Yeah, it's really neat. Travel blog prosperity, folks. You want to check it out if that interests you, maybe a side gig. Or if you have, some other people in your life that have been talking about doing something like this. I want to touch back to something you said earlier about not having the support of your family.
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, how are you going to make money at this? We can all hear it in our heads, because we probably hear it as business owners. Well, how are you? Oh my gosh, isn't that risky? So please speak to this.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, this is also in 2011. So my parents didn't know what a blog was. I mean, I didn't even really know what a blog was. So it was hard for me to explain, but I was like, people are doing this. I'm telling you, look at these people. And, they thought I was, crazy. They were like, you're never going to be able to support yourself. How is this going to make money? But I was really determined. And, it took years, even when I was still living with my parents. And I was making money from my blog, but I was living there trying to save up to move out comfortably and all that. And I feel like it actually took me moving to the city. I don't know when that was, probably 6-7 years ago, but I'm 31. So it was somewhere in my mid 20s. But I moved out, and I feel like finally then they were like, oh, you are making enough to cover rent in Brooklyn. Like, the city's expensive no matter where you live. So they were like, oh, okay, you are. I think they thought I was just making like $100 a month or something. But I'm like, no, I really am doing it. I pursued this thing aggressively, and I was, So I feel like sometimes you have to take that leap to really, I don't know. I had to really show them my independence in a different way than just saying it to have them believe in me. But sometimes it does take shutting out those voices, because I easily could have listened to my family and friends and been like, oh yeah, I guess everyone else is getting a 9-to-5 and working in Manhattan. Maybe that's what I should be doing too. But I knew I loved to travel so much. And I knew that, I was a solo female traveler. I still am. So that specifically has so many people being like, how do you do that? I'm scared.
Right.
How do you get that place where you feel safe? How do you feel empowered to do that? How do you plan your trips? So I also felt really empowered by the messages I was getting from this community. I was like, I need your help. So it's like, yes, I wanted to help people so much. And I wanted to do it in a way where I could continue doing something I loved at the same time. So luckily, I will say I did continue, like I said before, waitressing on the side. I didn't just say, okay, I'm going to give up everything right now, and I'm going to throw myself into this, and hopefully it works out. I felt like having that income on the side, that waitressing job that also had flexible hours, so that was really awesome. But it helped me feel confident and less stressed about having to make this work. It was sort of like, okay, I'm going to give myself X amount of time to grow this thing. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, I've still been making money doing the waitressing stuff. So it was fine.
Yeah. Working with lots of startups over the years, especially earlier on in my coaching business. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's a different journey for each person. But I think there's a lot to be said about just not succumbing to the pressure of what people are telling you should be doing. You gotta dig in and figure out what's right for you, each person. And so speaking of that, I think this is very inspiring. I definitely want to go back to what you said about empowering female solo travelers and feeling empowered yourself. And then, the empowerment that you gave yourself by, moving out of your parents' house, giving up the waitressing job. You're like, I'm doing this full time. I'm living my dream. I've made this, lifestyle pay for itself and more. Right. So I want to hear a little bit more about those aspects of empowerment for sure.
Yeah. So I'll start with the travel. I will say, okay, so I studied abroad, and I wasn't that nervous for that because I would be meeting other people as soon as I got there. Like, I went there solo, but there was an introduction and they were helping us meet each other. And I was lucky. I made friends the first day. I'm still friends with these girls. This
fantastic.
Is 10 years later, 11 years later. So that was all good. I would say the scarier thing for me was, okay, I've been bitten by the travel bug now. And, I was in a sorority in college. I made my sorority house. I was like, we're all going on this backpacking trip to Europe. I'll plan it. No one has to do anything. I'm going to tell you when you owe money, and that's that. So I spent so much time planning this trip, and everyone was so on board. And I don't know why I believed everyone that they would come. But when it came down to it, and I had invested, 30 plus hours into planning our route and what we would do and how we'd have fun and stay safe and all that stuff. Everyone backed out. I was the only one who was
everyone.
Oh yeah. My. I had 4 people probably that I genuinely believed would be coming. We would talk about it when we'd go out. Oh, we're going to be backpacking Europe this summer. And everyone backed out.
Oh,
so I was left with So, I think it's because I was just like, oh yeah, and I'll do everything. So I feel like people were like, oh, sure, Jesse. Yeah, you do that and we'll come. But anyway, I was left with this okay, do I give up this trip? I invested so much time. I'm so excited about it. Or do I just go myself? And I think I was 21, maybe 22 at this point. So yeah, I had to make that decision, and I decided to go, and it was incredible. My parents made me literally book every single hostel for the entire time, which I do not recommend to anyone.
Okay, note to self.
Trains. Yeah, when you're traveling for a few months, you're gonna miss trains, you're gonna miss planes.
Oh, yes.
You're gonna meet people that seem really cool, and you want to head off on a side trip with them. So it was a great experience, and I learned a lot. So the next time I went, I traveled again through Southeast Asia, partly solo, partly with tours. I taught English for a little bit. But my next, I'd say, big, totally solo, no tours thing was South America. I think 3 or 4 months. And that trip, I booked the first 2 weeks or so. And I felt like that was good because I was nervous again, even though I had done a few trips by this point. I was nervous. I didn't speak Portuguese. I was arriving into Brazil first. I didn't know if people there would speak English. So, and then, of course, South America, some people were like, oh, this is going to happen to you, that's going to happen to you, totally scaring me like crazy. And nothing bad happened to me there because you use common sense and stuff like that. But when I arrived, so like I was saying, I had the first 2 weeks booked, and then after that, I met people along the way. I changed my initial plans. I had a rough itinerary, but I didn't want to have every single thing mapped out. So I would sort of book accommodation 3 days before each place. But something neat that happened. I met a girl on the plane sitting next to me. We ended up chatting the whole time. And she was like, oh, come to my grandma's house tonight for a dinner. And I did. Kind of risky. I was like, she's a female. I felt like we connected. We had a very long flight together. So it was kind of a cool experience to get to meet locals. And nowadays there's also so many apps and Eat With and there's a bunch of them where you can eat in local homes, and it's more secure. It's like Airbnb or Uber where there's profiles for each person and stuff like that. But there's so many ways to connect with people that I think makes it feel safer and easier, and like you're not so alone. Okay, you're traveling solo, but you're meeting people and you're connecting with people. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. I was a travel agent in, I don't know, 2 lifetimes ago, it feels like at this point. And things have changed so much because of technology, but that's really cool to hear about the apps. I think most of us know about the mainstream ones, but for anybody considering a trip or even a small trip with a group of gals, to know that these things are out there, and there's a lot of comfort in that.
Oh yeah. My boyfriend and I actually use it's called Bon Appetit. That's what it's called.
Oh,
and we've eaten in local homes in Italy and France and usually someone pulls out some homemade wine or some homemade whatever, and it's just really fun. It's really fun. Even if you don't speak the language, like when we were in France, we didn't speak any French. They spoke a little bit of English, but they had an iPad, so we were looking up Google Translate. We used charades. And we ended up like having some amazing conversations. There was one guy who spoke, I would say, decent English, and he spoke Spanish. We speak broken Spanish. So we got our point across, and it was really fun. It was honestly like challenging but fun.
I love it. I was going to ask you about the language. That was something I was more personally interested in because I love learning languages and getting to know cultures. And one thing that I love so much about traveling and connecting with people online all over the world is that we realize our I'm trying to think how to our oneness, right? I mean, our humanness, we are so much alike, the same in all the good ways.
Absolutely.
And it's just neat to experience that. So for people who have not traveled extensively overseas or gone and done some free spirited thing like this, I highly encourage it. And I know you do too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This is a question I like to ask a lot of my guests. I'd love to hear what your current definition of success is and how it differs from what you thought success was when you started this whole thing.
Sure. So when I first started travel blogging, like I said, I was living at my parents', and in my mind, I honestly thought I could do that forever if it just meant I could travel. Like travel really was the end goal for me. I wanted to make money, but I didn't really care if it was even enough to genuinely live on, as long as I could like buy bread and live at home.
You did have the travel bug.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I didn't care about making a comfortable living. And honestly, at that point, I felt very awkward asking for money. I did so many things for free. And over the years, I've learned to really value myself, my knowledge, my experience, my time. And I've gained the confidence to ask for money because genuinely, it does mean that you can better serve your people. If you are not making any money, you're not going to have the energy and the bandwidth to do the things necessary to help your people, and you're going to burn out. I mean, it's not sustainable. And you can't, I've learned you cannot live at your parents' house forever. I learned that early on, that like by my mid-20s, I was like, wait, I need to restructure this.
Yeah, that never appealed to me. I always say I would rather live in a box under a bridge, but that's not happening either, but anyway.
No, but I totally get it. Like, I feel like I would just do what's necessary now to make it so I could sustain myself, where back then I didn't look at it like that. And I mean, travel is still a huge passion of mine. I do it every month. I was just in Latvia last week. I was in Virginia the week before, going to Panama next month. So it's still something I do all the time, but I appreciate balance. So I live in New York City. A lot of travel bloggers travel 100% full time. I could do that, but I don't want to. I think that it's very stressful. I think it's exhausting. Mm-hmm. I like having my own bed, and I live with my boyfriend. We have a cat. Like this is something I need in my life too. So it's just creating that balance that works for both of us. I used to do the big backpacking trips. Now I'll do more of like a 1 week a month max type of thing, just so I can have that balance, and not just to be with my boyfriend and my cat, but to like actually get work done for my business, because I do work while I'm on the road, but I want to also enjoy where I am and see the sights. So my hours to get things done are much less when I'm on the road.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would hope so. Yeah, that's not surprising. Plus,
it's a good and bad thing.
As great as technology is, just having traveled a fair amount myself, I know that, when you really, really need the Wi-Fi to work, it's crappy. And when you're like, oh, well, whatever, this hole in the wall has the best Wi-Fi ever. It's crazy. Yeah.
Totally.
So, anyway.
Sometimes it is nice to book, like, you want to know that there's not going to be Wi-Fi. Like of course, for what we do when you're an entrepreneur, you need to know that beforehand, but sometimes I'll book a place like that just to make myself slow down. Mm-hmm. And you do, like, so many experts say this, but it's true. When you take a break, even if it's just for a day, you come back so much more refreshed, and it's almost like a creative light bulb comes on that, you didn't give yourself time to breathe or your mind time to relax. I actually heard, I forget who said this, but someone was saying, how you have these, you wake up at 2 a.m. and you're like, great idea. And you write it down. Well, a lot of times that's because you haven't given yourself, your brain time to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you're sleeping, it's finally turning off, and now your creative juices are turning. So it's like, give yourself that time during the day to just, whatever it is, travel, or even if you're at home, take a walk, play with your dog, whatever it is to just relax and change things up, journal, all the things that people say.
Yes. Oh, I want to hug you, virtual hug, because exactly, I feel like I'm constantly, well, preaching isn't the right word, but I'm constantly reminding people of that. And when we think about it, I mean, as people just heard you say that, they're like, oh yeah, I know that. But we get so bogged down in just the day-to-day, the shit that has to get done, the to-do list, and I got to do this, I got to do this. But I love the way you said it. And here's what I wrote. It wasn't exactly the same. Take time to breathe, give your allow your mind to relax. You come back refreshed, and it allows you to be creative. That's exactly it. So I love that you've struck this balance now. Even someone with as bitten by the travel bug as badly as you have been, you're now at a place where you recognize the slowing down, having the balance, having intentional unplugged time. Maybe we call it off the grid. I don't know, whatever we want to call it these days. And I think there's so many great reminders and lessons for people listening, because we always have too much to do. If you look at all the things that you want to accomplish from that specific lens versus a lens of slowing down and just appreciating your surroundings, appreciating who you are, this life that you're living, the place that you're in, the people that you're meeting. I mean, those don't have to be completely separate things. I love that you've married them together nicely.
Oh yeah. And I feel like something that's helped me, I used to, well, like I said, I used to not be a planner. I was just like travel, like my business was a mess. But now I look at each month as like this big picture, and I try to say, okay, the big project, or maybe one or two projects that I want to get done is this. And I try to like draw it out. Like, what do I need to get done in week 1 to get to the next step in week 2 and the next step in week 3? So it's not so like, I have to get this done now. It's pieced out, and you know that, okay, these small actions that you take, these things you're getting done, lead to this goal being completed, and it helps paint that big picture and just get things done in a more, I feel like, digestible way, if that's the right word.
Totally. Yes. I love it. I mean, that's why we have all these gurus out there, experts, and I'll include myself in that, saying be strategic, plan it out, just going willy-nilly is way too stressful. And like you said before, it's not sustainable. It leads to burnout. It leads to overwhelm. And so sometimes we might resist the level of strategy and deeper thinking. But once you realize the benefits and you just make it part of the schedule and the process and the structure that you create for yourself, it all flows. And you realize when you have that structure, then you can have the free-spirited chaos in between, and you're still supported ongoing. It is a sustainable method versus just craziness.
I feel like a lot of people feel like, because I used to feel like this, and I actually, in my membership or in my other courses, I've talked to people, and I know this is how they feel, that, oh, but if I take 15 minutes in the morning to do yoga, or if I take an hour to just write in a journal and try to plan something out, I'm wasting time. But it's like, oh my goodness, no, you're going to save so much time. Well, especially the planning part. I like to do like 10, 15 minutes of yoga just to like focus myself. And then after that, I sit down and I plan my day and really think about like what's important to do first. And, they say, don't check your email first thing, which sometimes I'm guilty of that. And I notice it's like, you spiral. So try not to do that too. But just planning it out, oh my goodness, you save so much time. Otherwise, you're going to do something that takes so long, and you're going to realize, oh, I didn't really need to do that. Or if I would have mapped out this whole, if you're creating a course, if I would have mapped out this whole module before I started creating it, I would have realized I didn't need to even do that whole section, or it would have been better somewhere else. And now you have to go back and revamp. So yeah, you save time. You save time.
The good old measure twice, cut once, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said about yoga, something struck me that I think really there's been a thread of this through our whole conversation. Doing the yoga and taking the time to think and breathe, and you taking the time to really, because a lot of people say taking the time to travel, time, energy, resources, right, to travel is very similar to the yoga or the physical fitness or even feeding ourselves. We are physical beings. I think a lot of times we want to be so cerebral, we forget that we are physical beings and we have to nourish a lot of different components of this this body that we've got in order for the mind to be at its best. And so making these things a part of the regularly scheduled programming, if you will, is really critical for sustainable, full on living.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Jessica, I would love to just keep chatting forever. We have so much in common and this is a lot of fun, and I'm sure we will keep talking off the microphone here. But I want people to think about what they can do with this information, how they can apply some of the concepts and reminders that we've talked about today. And I want them to check out your stuff. So where do you want them to go to find you? And what are you working on that they must check out?
So I would say the best place to connect with me is on my blog, jessieonajourney.com, JessieOnaJourney.com.
Right.
And right at my top menu, you can see the course I'm working on, but I have a ton of free offerings. And one that people really love is a free 5-day email course on how to turn your blog into a profitable business in 5 days. So check that out. It's totally free. And if you're into the whole travel blogging thing, I also offer a free influencer network list. I have 31 influencer networks that have really helped me grow my blogging business. And that will be specifically of interest to people who are in the lifestyle travel blogging field, who want to work with brands and go on paid press trips and things like that.
Okay. Excellent follow-ups. So thanks so much for being here. I appreciate your time and being willing to share so much with us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. To connect more with me or any of my guests, go to the podcast page at envisionsuccessinc.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on your favorite platform so we can inspire more women together. Let's all lead the way from a place of love and moxie.